Hey guys, my name is David, welcome back to BrickVault and to a brand new mock release. I'd say this is brand new, but technically this is an update to an existing model on BrickVault. It's the U-Wing by incredibly talented builder Caleb Briggs. You know Caleb from all of his other work on BrickVault, like the legendary MTT, the Jedi Starfighters and Hyperdrive rings, and of course the first version of the U-Wing. But Caleb also shows off his builds and the progress on his Instagram at rigsbricks.lego, so make sure to check it out. I have to be upfront with you guys first. This model is among the best models I have ever put together in all categories, from sturdiness to looks to playability and handleability, and I will show you why in this video. The UT-60D U-Wing Starfighter was first introduced in my opinion, one of the best pieces of Star Wars content and one of the best Star Wars movies of all time for that matter. For the Rebels, it basically fills in the gap between a starfighter like the X-Wing and a landing craft for troop deployment, kinda like the Republic gunship for the Republic. Looking from the top, it looks very sleek and fast, especially with its 4 engines, which are also reminiscent of the X-Wing, and the long and thin rings in the front that can be rotated back for an even sleeker appearance. But if you come down to human eye level, you can see it adds a rather big loading bay underneath the main ship's hull, which is mainly for transporting and deploying troops onto the battlefield. There are multiple color variants of the U-Wing, but I'd say this is arguably the most recognizable from Rogue One, so Caleb concentrated on this one first. This is by the way also the same version as the new Lego set they just released, and also the same as the 2016 version. So if you weren't happy with how the new set looks, this mock definitely upscales things, but obviously that comes with a price. Around 400 USD for everything, maybe a bit less if you're skilled with bricklink. Just the model itself stands at 4,500 pieces. The stand and ring supports for displaying it with folded out rings adds another 200 parts. This new U-Wing almost doubles the parts count of the previous version. The original U-Wing is still a great model. I always wanted to own it, but I never came around to buying the instructions back in the day when I didn't work for BrickVault yet. So the more grateful and happy I am that I get the chance to own this new incredible build, which exceeds the original model by a trillion in my opinion. That also means I can't compare the two side by side unfortunately, so please excuse that. I can tell just from the pics and of course the dimensions that the new one is bigger. The new U-Wing is 76 centimeters long on the stand compared to 65 centimeters of the original model. To give you a better idea of the size, here is a bowl next to it. But before we dive a little deeper and I show you all the cool angles and stuff it can do, if you want to add this incredible build to your own collection, we sell the instructions and parts list for this and many more builds on our website BrickVault.toys. With your purchase you support the designers we work with like Caleb and ourselves, so we can continue working with these talented builders from all over the world. Each model is hand tested and the instructions have been troubleshot for buildability and ease of build, so that's www.brickvault.toys, or click the first link in the description below and back to the build. The additional parts mainly come from the way the new U-Wing is built. Almost exclusively snot, which means studs not on top but on their sides, which creates these incredibly smooth surfaces that from afar make the model look like a coherent toy or model kit. The original version uses a lot of plates here, which makes the appearance more sturdy and Lego-y so to speak. Also a charming look, but in terms of detail, accuracy and complexity, this new approach is just unmatched. Just look at the way all the different angles and shapes come together so seamlessly. Almost no gaps anywhere on this build where they are not intentional. I love the use of panels all over over, and Caleb also used a lot of white road sign pieces to cover up bars, which are necessary for making the build sturdy and functional, which is kind of innovative because it too just raises the thickness by a couple of millimeters compared to using full-on tiles, for example. And this approach has the benefit that you can also cover up the underside with the same sign pieces connected on that same bar. Genius. Although the wings are so long, they are super sturdy and you really have to put force on them before they break. I don't know how much though, because they never broke on me, even though I tested it out. So that's successful designing right there, making the thin protrusions as sturdy but also as good looking as it gets. The sides have some dark gray details too, which is a nice touch. You will find the road sign pieces all throughout this build. It's kinda a theme here, but it works so well on the nose too, where you can also see this grill tile assembly angled. It's not connected with anything, but just sits there at that angle perfectly. Left and right is the ship's main weaponry. The cockpit area is another section that surprised me a lot. First off, this newer transparent black color works so perfectly on this ship. Technically, you can look into the interior through all the transparent parts, and the way they are built is just awesome. Caleb captured all the little windows with BrickVault techniques, which I haven't seen being done before. You can get a glimpse of how this was built later on in the video when we take a look at the interior. All throughout this build you can see patches of color like bright yellow or light bluish gray to indicate wear and tear, and I think that was very tastefully added. Behind the cockpit is a nice collection of greebles, full on Star Wars style, and what I like most here is probably the venting detail in the back that also follows the ship's downward sloping underneath. It was kinda tricky to put together and attach everything, but the end result looks so great. I'm a sucker for small details like the underside of the dish pieces that are only half shown in the back. Here in the back we also have the 4 thrusters that are all built the same with a few differences in color for the battle damage. And we have a very small indication of thrust coming out the engines too. Beneath the wings you can see the troop bay area, super smoothly built and angled outwards ever so slightly. The doors have 2 brick-built windows that you can technically also look through to the inside. You can open them just like in the movies and not like the new Lego set ones to make you think how it works. Inside you can see a bench for troops to sit, a stud in the floor to attach a sitting person shooting out, or maybe a weapon like it was seen in Rogue One. In the back is a hatch depicted, and in the front are stairs leading up to the cockpit. In front of the doors are inlet details, so nicely integrated I couldn't believe that it was actually there. This is a section that you would almost never see, but it's so cool Caleb found a way to connect the grill pieces in there. Also a section that is a little more flimsy to the touch, so you might not want to mess with it too much, but why would you anyways? And in the very front are a couple of additional windscreens for the pilots to look out. I gotta mention the angles that have been achieved up here too, just masterfully done. Let's take a look at the features. Obviously, as the vast majority of our models, this is a display piece and it's not primarily made for play, but many of our models have play features too that want to be used carefully. You already saw how the doors open and close. To get better access to the interior, you can also remove the roof assembly. Here is the promised look at how it was put together. Very tricky techniques. Inside you can see the red bench from above. I think it's possible to seat 3 figs on each side, but 2 would be more comfortable. The stairs lead to the pilot seats. There are a couple of control panels on the way up, and the 2 pilots have full-on control consoles that are built in a way that I personally have not seen being done that way before. But it's super accurate if you compare to an image of the quote-unquote real cockpit. You can see that the pilots can actually look out the bottom too, which is a very nice touch. Funnily enough, the only studs showing on this build are on the bottom to connect the stand. Otherwise the bottom is as nicely done as the top. Super smooth, incredibly well detailed and made in a way that is super easy and sturdy to pick up from and fly around. It passed the swooshing test easily. But if you want to display it on the stand, here it is. The stand is also kinda cool because it uses 4 ball connections to angle the model in a very dynamic way. That was a really nice idea, I think, since in this case the model has a lot to show underneath the wings as well as above. The only issue, or not issue really, but more so a small design flaw, is that it's not possible to display the U-wing on the stand with the wings folded out. I think for display purposes having the wings be closed makes much more sense and saves space, but if you wanted to display display it in its full glory, the model tips backwards and the stand is not high enough on one side to have the wing fold out completely without scratching the table. A small thing, but I wanted to mention it anyways. If you want to display it in flight mode, Caleb included a couple of small black stand assemblies that clip into place when the wings are folded out. The model sits on the floor for that. Make sure though when folding out the wings to lift them up slightly so they disconnect from the body. The connection uses a clip that can sometimes be a little strong, so don't pull the wings out without actually disconnecting them properly, otherwise you will disconnect part of the side of the main hull too. Not much that can come apart here, but it's definitely worth mentioning. In flight mode this thing is huge and takes up a ton of space, too much to actually display it like this anywhere reasonably in my opinion, but obviously this is a feature and maybe the main feature of this build, so it's nice that it was included in this way. If you want to display it in landed position for a Yavin or Scarif mock for example, there are a couple of landing skids present on the underside that can be folded out and actually help holding up the model a bit. I personally think it looks best on the stand for long-term display, but the landed form also looks really clean. When Caleb announced that he's working on a 2.0 version of his U-wing, I was super excited and I have to say it exceeded my expectations. The quality of the build and the instructions is just next level, and although this is a display model, it surprised me how well everything came together to the point where it's easily swooshable if you know where to hold it. Like every mock or Lego set or any Lego creation for that matter, this has its weak spots, but if you know where they are, you can definitely avoid them and enjoy these sections while looking at them and not interacting with them too much. Overall, a masterful addition to the BrickVault collection, and you have to build this yourself to get the full experience of building and owning this model. You can find the instructions and parts list on brickvault.toys or via the first link in the video description, you know the deal. Thank you for the support in advance and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. Doesn't cost you anything, maybe half a second, and it supports us immensely and shows us that you are as passionate about this than we are. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so, and I'll catch you in the next one at BrickVault.